Should Marc Bergevin have done more at the trade deadline, and does Dale Weise have anything left? This is Hockey Inside Out. Welcome to this week's show. I am Adam Susser. Here with me today we have Julian McKenzie from Habs Eyes on the Prize, CBC Daybreak's Jessica Rusnak, and Chris Nyland. On Saturday, the Canadiens blew a 3-0 first period lead in Toronto before unraveling like a cheap sweater, losing 6-3. They lost again on Monday in New Jersey, but lit up the Red Wings in Detroit a day later. The Canadiens have 6 losses in their last 9 games. Is this the beginning of the end of their playoff hopes?
Well, it's definitely something to be concerned over that the Canadiens are right now really hanging on to a playoff spot by a thread, with so many other teams trying to catch up to them, like Pittsburgh and Carolina are really hot on their tail right there. So the Canadiens really can't lose or afford to lose any more games right now. Now, the game against Detroit was a really good step in the right direction, beating them 8-1. That can also help with their confidence. But yeah, you have to be a little bit concerned right now that the Canadiens, if they start to slide any more, this whole season of impressing people and proving people wrong could go down the drain if they don't make the playoffs.
It's coming at the wrong time for these guys. And it's one thing to go up against tough opposition like a Tampa or a Nashville and come away without a victory. But it's another thing to go up against a team like New Jersey, who doesn't have their best player, and they put up the effort that they did. Yes, they won 8-1 against Detroit. Detroit obviously playing for that lottery pick, the number 1 overall pick, but they can't have. I was more concerned about the fact that they lost the way that they did against the Devils as opposed to how they lost that game against the Leafs, a team that's supposed to be a contender. They can't have too many more efforts like what they did against New Jersey, or else they're going to find themselves on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a wake-up call for them. You know, I'm not a whole lot concerned maybe about the game in Jersey. It's a young team that has to learn how to win, a team that just came together this season. You know, we're going to see them some nights are going to be off the charts like they were last night, and then they're going to have their struggles. I look at this team, they're going to battle right to the end of the season. If they make it, they make it. I don't think it's the beginning, the end. It's just a question of them coming together and learning how to win hockey games together, learning how to hang on to a 3-0 lead, learning how to go into New Jersey when the game is so big that you show up. You don't wait to the third period to show up. So, these are all things that young teams have to deal with. And, like I said, it's more a wake-up call than the beginning of the end.
Claude Julien's line shuffle paid off big in Detroit on Tuesday. Andrew Shaw had a hat trick. Max Domi and Jonathan Drouin combined for 5 goals and 12 points. Is this line built for long-term success, or do you think it was just a line getting lucky against a terrible team?
I don't know if they got lucky. I mean, they played hard. They pushed the pace, but there was no opposition. If you look at the goals that were scored, there was no one in the area. Guys were left all alone all night. Now, Adam, you could probably score a couple goals in a game like that. And really, I mean, guys were left wide open. Detroit, they were falling down. They couldn't pick up any guys. And listen, I'm happy they won, but it's as bad as Jersey was on Monday night. They played much better the following night. That's great. But this team and some of the players on it, I want to see them do what they did in Detroit against the Tampa Bays, Boston in Boston, like they did at the beginning of the season. All teams that are contenders. I want to see the big players step up in those games.
I found it interesting with Max Domi after the game when he was asked about the line. He said, at this point in the season, you have to be able to find chemistry and figure out a way to play with the players that the coach puts you with, because it's right now a desperate type of situation that you don't have time to take a game off or figure out how to work well with each other. And it worked well against Detroit, and we'll see if they're able to carry that forward. But I also like Max Domi's approach right now, that he's very realistic. He said, this was a good game. It was a must-win situation, but it's one game, against Detroit. He didn't necessarily say that, but that's sure what he was thinking about it. And we now need to forget about this and move on to our next opponent. We can't get too high from this, because it really was not a big team that we were facing. It was a game that we should have won, and we won it.
Even if it wasn't the greatest of teams, you have to like the fact that they did beat them as badly as they did. And you have to hope from a game like that, you're able to kind of bring up some confidence and kind of carry that over into your next few games. I mean, a 5-point night for Max Domi, that's nothing to sniff at. Obviously, 4 assists for Jonathan Drouin. I agree with your point, Chris, with the fact you want to see it against teams like Tampa and other contenders, but especially for a guy like Drouin who wasn't getting as many points over the last few games. He was on his longest scoring drought of the season. For him to get back off the schneid in such a big way, you need to carry over that confidence over against bigger teams. So I'm not really a big momentum guy, but maybe some guys on the Canadiens are. They need to generate that over against teams like Pittsburgh and any of the other comers that are coming for them in the standings.
Well, this team is nothing if they're not resilient, so I like to think that they will continue to work hard and bounce back at this juncture in the season. Marc Bergevin's only deal at the trade deadline was acquiring forward Jonathan Weise in exchange for Michael Chaput. Should he have done more?
I'm happy with him standing pat. Listen, they got a right-handed centerman, which they don't have. We haven't really seen much of this kid, a little bit in Arizona. I'm happy he stood pat. And I know a lot of people are saying, he should have tried to improve the team to make the playoffs. But you have to give up so much to get a player that's going to be impactful to your team. And I think what people want here is this superstar that's going to come in and turn the power play around, or this great left-handed defenseman to play with Shea Weber. Listen, I like the direction of this team. I have from the beginning. Marc Bergevin changed things around here. He changed the attitude by bringing some of the players he brought in here, putting Weber as captain. They're going in the right direction. Stay the course. Draft well next year, and they got guys in the pipeline, the Palings, the Primos, Romanov. They got good potential future players that are gonna come in here and hopefully add to what they've done this year.
Well, what Bergevin was even saying that the asking price is way too high, that they want Kotkaniemi and Ryan Poehling. Like, everyone would say he's a moron for doing that trade. So there wasn't really much opportunity for him to make any big moves to help this team going forward. And it's better that he just is a little bit more conservative during this time of year, which is often a time where GMs tend to really overpay for certain players, hoping that they can make that final push to get to the playoffs. And then down the road, you say, oh, wow, remember that player when he was part of our organization and we got him for this player that's no longer here. So I think it was better that he really was conservative.
Yep, I have to agree with everyone here, but I will add this one little thing. See, not necessarily a Matt Duchene type of player. That's my opinion here. I'm thinking about the guys like Wayne Simmons and the asking prices for them. I kind of would have liked to have seen Bergevin, throw out a roster player and maybe a lesser prospect for a guy like him, as opposed to, throwing out a Kotkaniemi or a Poehling for Matt Duchene, pretty much just 2 months of Matt Duchene before he goes on to sign elsewhere. Would have liked to have seen him go out for another, either second line or a third line player, give yourself some more options. The Jordan Weise move isn't necessarily that bad, but I think with some of the lesser players and some of the asking prices for those guys kind of going around, would have liked to have seen Bergevin be a bit more active. But again, with the prospects that they have in tow and the core that they have right now, there's no sense sacrificing it for 2 months of a rental player. And even if they had gotten Matt Duchene, I don't personally believe that would have made that much of a difference for this Canadiens team going forward. I think this is a team that will be a veritable cup contender in about 3 to 5 years' time. And right now, you just need to stay the course with this team.
Dale Weise has played only a couple games since returning to the team. Do you think he has anything left to give on the ice?
Well, I think they knew who they were getting with Dale Weise, that he was a player that was down playing for the Philadelphia's AHL team at that point. They didn't expect him to come here and have a huge impact in the NHL, that he is a fourth-line player that's supposed to bring some energy, and he's going to sometimes be in the lineup when the matchup is right for him to get in. But I don't think that Dale Weise is really going to be a game changer, that he's going to be a depth player that can go between Laval and Montreal, and then hopefully some experience. If they do make the playoffs, that can come in handy there.
I think with the Dutch Gretzky, as we should be calling him, I haven't seen enough for him to make me think that he's made that much of an impact. I think in the first game he was up at Nashville, he made maybe tried to make a little bit of a play with Nick Deslauriers in the first period, but other than that, I haven't seen too much from Dale Weise. That has made me say that, he's been a really good addition for them. I think he's just been kind of there, but I think we just need a bit more of a sample size to really make that opinion. But again, this is a guy who did so well a couple years ago in his role, and just kind of going up and down the lineup. But you have to kind of see him before the end of the year. Just give him more games, just to give him more time, get his legs back. Not nearly the same players it was a couple years ago, but I just need to see more of a sample size.
Yeah, tough to tell with 2 games, but the first time he came here, he played 1-2 games, then he got put up in the press box because he was skating around trying to be a hockey player instead of going out and playing physical, playing tough, playing hard, what they expected of him. He got the message, and he did go up and down the lineup. He filled in different spots. He scored some big goals, overtime goals in the playoff in Boston. He did a great job. I don't think he's going to get the same opportunity with this coach because the way this lineup is. Given that, can he play on the 4th line? Sure can. But he has to be consistent. He was here, played 1 game, they sent him back to Laval. I guess they didn't like what they saw. So hopefully that registered with him, and he rebounds and plays the type of hockey that we saw from him when he was here the first time around. So, he's going to be one of those depth guys, 4th line guy that, and you just never know what happens if they get in the playoffs or down the stretch here. They may have to go to him. You never know with injuries. And maybe if he plays a little more, you'll see a little more from him.
And it might be tricky if they do make the playoffs. His wife is due the end of April with twins, and she's back in Winnipeg. So.
Wow.
Yeah, but with Dale Weise, though, at least with the players they have up front and guys like Domi and Gallagher, it's not as if they have to necessarily rely so much on Dale Weise. And again, he's not that same player like he was a couple years ago. For me, if he's just a good player on that 4th line, he brings energy whenever he needs to, that's enough for me with Dale Weise, honestly. The expectations shouldn't be so... I mean, it's really easy to get caught up with what he did a couple years ago, but the expectations for Dale Weise, the Dutch Gretzky, yes, he gets the nickname, but the expectations needn't be so high for this type of player.
I don't know. The Dutch Gretzky, you got to earn that nickname, I think. Do you think the Canadiens are wasting Carey Price's best years while Bergevin tries to reset the team?
Well, he's not getting any younger, that's for sure. There's been injury issues with Carey Price, but time's ticking. He's going to be 32 this August, and goaltenders can have a longer lifespan, as we're seeing. That he could play until he's 36, 37, let's just say. But now is really the time. You have to use Carey Price now. That it's not going to continue to get any better. It's going to start to trail down a little bit. But so I would say that there's more pressure on Marc Bergevin now to put together a team.
You need a little bit of everything to get through the Stanley Cup playoffs, including goaltending. And the fact that, I know the Canadiens' latest slide is a little concerning, but the fact that for the most part Carey Price has looked pretty good, I think if you're a Habs fan, you should have confidence that if it gets to a point where the Canadiens do make the playoffs, you can ride Carey Price to potentially seeing if you can get some victories, maybe go to the 2nd round. I think he's just that type of player. He's just that game-changing player still at his age where you can rely on him in that way. That being said, with the team there, next year, the year after, with the rookies coming in and maybe some acquisitions here and there, I think the Canadiens could still make something of the years he still has left. But when you have Carey Price and Carey Price is healthy, even if the Canadiens are not the favorites, they still have a chance.
Yeah, goalies can definitely play a little longer. You look at Luongo, what's he, almost 40 years old, right? Mm-hmm. In a month or so, I'm not saying Price will make it to 40. He may. But fact of the matter is, you look at the way he's playing now. He turned around his season from last year, playing more like the Carey Price we know. Is that window there where we have to win now? Regardless, he's getting paid to stop the puck. So if it's this year, next year, whatever, he's in for the duration here. And regardless if Marc Bergevin is retooling or what, just stop the puck and do your job.
All right, well, that's it for this week's show. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Are the Canadiens making the playoffs this year? If so, how far will they go? Let us know in the comment section below. I'm Adam Susser, and I'll see you next Thursday.